The earth is warming, the bird song increases, the sweeter breezes brush our cheeks, and the earth holds hope in its seeds and buds. Come, let us gather this morning with joyful noise, with warm hearts, and with hopeful spirits, for we are one with the renewal of the earth and blessedly held in the love of one another. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Eastrose Fellowship. We are happy you have chosen to join us this morning. I'm Jan Apland-Curtis, your worship leader, and our speaker today is Reverend Katie Larsell, a community minister for Eastrose and a longtime member. She also has a blog titled Natural Religion that I'd encourage you to check out if you're interested. And her sermon today is titled Celtic Thresholds, and she will share stories about St. Brigid. Let's take a little time to greet each other, but first let's turn and look at the camera in the back by the clock and say hello to our friends that are viewing online.
Hello. Hello, Carrie. Hi, Brigid.
Okay, there'll be more time for visiting after the service. And now we want to take a moment to offer respect and appreciation to the Indigenous peoples whose traditional homelands are here where we gather each Sunday. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their descendants. And now we'll light our chalice. For the wonder and inspiration we seek from sun and stars and all the lights of the heavens, we light this chalice. We have an opening hymn, May Nothing, or Prayer for This House, in the gray hymnal. It's number 1, or the words will be on the screen.
and Tara will be sharing a story.
So this story is from a collection called Brother Wolf, Sister Sparrow, Stories About Saints and Animals, and it was retold by Eric Kimmel and illustrated by John Lynch. And this is a story about Saint Brigid. She was one of Ireland's most important saints. She's called the Mother Saint of Ireland and the patron saint of milkmaids. And her emblem, or her symbol, is the cow. And this is one of many stories and legends about Brigid that's meant to teach us something about goodness and kindness. And in this story, she's a little girl, maybe about your age. And it's called Saint Brigid and the Cows. This story does not have a lot of pictures in it, so I'm going to invite you to watch the screen. Saint Brigid's father was a wealthy man who owned a large herd of milk cows. When Brigid was a little girl, her father sent her to milk the cows and churn the milk into butter. Brigid herded the cows together and milked them one by one. She poured the rich, sweet milk into a churn and began turning. As the handle of the churn moved up and down, Brigid sang in time to its rhythm. People passing by on the road stopped to listen. Many were poor, dressed in rags. Listening to Brigid's song helped them forget their troubles. Brigid churned the milk into butter in no time at all. She scraped the sweet butter, yellow as a field of buttercups, out of the churn. She had enough to fill a bucket. Then she noticed the people standing in the road. They thanked her for the music. Brigid could not feel happy seeing how ragged and starved people looked. "Would you like some butter?" she asked them. The poor people looked at her with grateful eyes. Brigid held out the bucket to them. The butter tasted so good. More people came. Soon the bucket was empty. "I'll make more," Brigid said. "And would all of you like a drink of fresh milk too?" She milked more cows and churned more butter, singing all the while. She spent the whole morning and a good part of the afternoon milking and churning. She poured gallons of milk and churned pounds of butter. And the miracle was that her cows kept giving milk until all the people had enough. By then, both churn and butter pail were scraped clean, and not a single drop of milk was to be had from any of the cows. "It's time to go home. Father will be wondering where I am," said Brigid. She picked up her churn, pail, and milking stool and started back down the road. Her father was indeed wondering, and not just about Brigid. "Where's the butter?" he asked as she came through the doorway. "Gone," said Brigid. "Gone? How can it be gone? What about the milk?" "It's gone too." "All those cows, all that milk, all that butter? Gone, you say? Where did it go?" Brigid told her father how she'd spent the day pouring milk and churning butter for the poor people who'd come by on the road. Now there wasn't a drop of milk or a pound of butter to be had. But indeed, wasn't it worth a little milk and butter to make all those poor souls happy? "No," her father said, "it wasn't worth it at all. And you're a fool. If you give to every beggar who comes wandering down the road, we'll have nothing for ourselves. What will become of us then? Let this be a lesson to you. Go back to the pasture and don't come home until you've replaced all the milk and butter you've given away." Brigid picked up her churn, bucket, and stool and returned to the pasture. She found the cows bedded down for the night. There would be no more milk until tomorrow. Brigid sat down on the stool and looked up at the sky. She prayed, "God, I always try to do good, but I'm not sure if I've done right or wrong. I tried to help the poor, and now Father's angry with me for giving away our milk and butter. Was I wrong, or is he? Please show me the right way. Give me a sign." As soon as Brigid finished her prayer, she heard wings rustling overhead. Coming down from heaven was a flight of angels. Each one carried a bucket, a churn, and a milking stool. The angels set their stools beside the cows, sat down, and began milking. When their buckets were full, they churned the milk into butter, 3 times as much butter as Brigid had given away. Then they flew back, leaving the butter behind in buckets of pure gold. Thus did Brigid receive her sign, and thus too did she learn that no good deed is ever wasted. It always returns to the giver tenfold.
We'll have those on the aisle join hands to form a bridge and sing the children out to their classes. I'll invite John Netherton to come up. He's going to be giving a canvas testimonial to us today.
Hi all. I didn't write anything because I didn't want to get abstract, so I'm just going to wing it. We often joke that, this isn't just a clubhouse of high-minded intellectual liberals that miss certain elements of decades gone by, but it is a religious community, but it is still a community. It's been almost 10 years now that I've been here, and I was extremely isolated back then, and I had just had an enormous falling out over a period of years in which I was very narrow-minded and black and white and absolutist, and it's this way or that way, and very sort of reactionary ideas, attitudes, and 2009 and 2010 were extraordinarily hard years for everyone, and myself included, being on the street, being trapped in a bad situation on the East Coast for all of 2009. And when I came here, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I had just remembered that Mr. Rogers had told me as a child to always seek out the helpers. And I was looking for someone who would at least understand, not be judgmental, not already have a closed, finished idea of what is and isn't and should and shouldn't be, that was just sealed and over with. And that's just what you heard and learned, and if that's not what you agreed with, then just, out you go. And First Church was a bit too much of a drive, so I came here. And I was, I won't say well socially functional, less than I was now, but you all took me in. And I've always enjoyed having a community to fret over, and a building to fret over, and a family, an extended family, because the nuclear family isn't enough. we need a community, and this is a community of where we have our covenant instead of a creed. And so all who are willing to abide by that covenant are truly welcome, and I've never felt as welcome just about anywhere in the world as I do within these walls. And so Eastrose has been more than a place where I have grown spiritually and religiously, and come to realize that that just because my understanding of the metaphysical and things beyond me, greater than me, isn't finished, that's a good thing. And that is welcome here. And that's not common. And there's a lot of people who feel ashamed of the doubt that they often feel about their faith. And to find a place where that was welcomed, was cherished to an extent, was a revelation for me. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I love this place. And that's why I'm going to continue to be here and fret over all the little corners and all the little things that need done, and because that's how I show my love. And so that's what Eastrose means to me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It's now time for our offering. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Here at Eastrose, we share half of our offering with a community nonprofit that we support. This month it is East County Rising Community Projects, a grassroots organization that energizes East Multnomah County residents to create equitable, livable communities centering underrepresented and marginalized people. Their vision is a vibrant, sustainable community with equitable opportunities and where all needs are met. Also, if you are attending online, you may donate by visiting our website and clicking the donate button, or you can scan the code on the screen. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You are invited to give generously and joyfully as you're willing and able.
Sing together.
We're going to sing hymn number 17, every night and every morn, and I will play it through once.
that's one of my favorite hymns of all the hymns. And although it doesn't say it's Celtic, doesn't it feel Celtic? Yes. I'm going to begin with a Celtic blessing. And so, you know, you can put your hands over your heart if you want. That's sort of my favorite go-to thing. But also, you could also just sit and shut your eyes. I'm just going to say it very slowly, so it's almost going to be a meditation. So you always begin with a breath, right? Begin with a breath. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the Son of Peace to you. You may open your eyes. Welcome back into the room. Now, how often have you been outside in a natural place and felt as if you wanted to kneel down and worship the ground, bless the sunset, roar back at the ocean? How many of you, huh? You feel something different when you're in nature. You feel something sacred. Sometimes you get giddy in nature. You feel like you've just bathed in something miraculous, and your stress and worry have left your shoulders. And from the reaction I got earlier, and that I'm feeling from the web, I think you probably agree with me. But how practically do you make nature your church? It's one thing to feel a deep connection every time you look at Mount Hood shining in the sun. It's another to build a spirituality around it, a spirituality that has some substance to it, a developed spirituality, or religion, if you want to be more concrete about it. A spirituality or a religion has beliefs, it has a community, and it has rituals and worship. Yeah, afterwards you can dispute with me if you want. Here in the Northwest, and we made reference to these folks earlier when we did a land acknowledgement, we have people living among us who are connected to nature and have a place-based spirituality. Our Northwest Native Indian tribes are connected to the salmon and native plants that they gather at different times of the year. They have an embodied faith built up over time and transmitted generationally through their elders. When I say embodied, it doesn't get any more embodied than what they're doing. A lot of their spiritual thankfulness is about the land that they hunt on and gather from the earth. It's from the salmon that come up the streams. But it's complicated for someone like me, a white woman descended from a settler family, to participate in Native American spirituality as much as I might admire it and maybe kind of want it, just want a little bit of it. We can appreciate it. Native Americans can and often do share their knowledge and faith with us through festivals and hospitality, but it's bad spiritual manners to just go in and start using it. Recently, I decided I needed to look for earth-based tradition that I had some connection to. It came to me that maybe, just maybe, I should look to my own ancestors. According to my mother's lore, and you know, as Americans, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. But according to my mother's lore, my ancestors came around the southern tip of South America, Cape Horn, on a clipper ship and settled in Battleground, Washington, just across the Columbia River. In the 1870s, which is longtime ancestors for white people in Oregon. So they were Irish Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and I never thought it was an especially earth-based religion. But there's more there than you realize. Because what about Celtic spirituality? The Celts are as close as I get to indigenous roots. And they had and have a distinctive spirituality that puzzled the Romans when they discovered them, for the Celts worshiped outside. And the Romans wrote about it. Ireland was where Celtic spirituality held on almost into the modern era. In some little, very small corners, it has, you know, at least the daughters kind of remember what their grandmothers was doing. It's now in revival, and this is the interesting part for me, both as a branch of paganism and as a part of some Christian denominations. Episcopalians, you know, Episcopalians used to be considered pretty stodgy, but they especially are embracing a Celtic Christian spirituality. Now, revivals are tricky. Sometimes I kind of ask myself, did someone just make up all this Celtic stuff because they thought it was cool? And because of my caution, I was being pretty careful about jumping into Celtic spirituality. I was tiptoeing because I didn't want to fall for something false or for something made up. Although, you know, how can you tell the difference? But then along came Saint Brigid. I read this book, which I would highly recommend for anyone who is interested in Celtic spirituality. John Philip Newell, who's alive right now and has done a lot of research on the spirituality around Christian Celtic myths and traditions. And he has a book called Sacred Earth, Sacred Soul. And he tells the story of all these major Celtic figures. Some of them, he's still alive, and he's a Celtic old soul. But he studied under other people who were carrying that tradition. He's an Episcopalian. And he goes back in time. And one of the figures, and it was the only woman in the book, I gotta say, which was a little bit disappointing, was Saint Brigid. She was the oldest person that he profiles in his book. She is one of the very early figures of Christian Ireland. She probably is earlier than St. Patrick. She's wonderfully historic, as well as wonderfully mythic. Historians think that she did exist as an abbess in Ireland when Christianity was new to the country in the 5th century. But here is the beauty of St. Brigid. There was a goddess of old Ireland named Brigid. So the two spiritual feminine spirits, the historic Abbess and the goddess from Druidic tradition fused within Irish culture, and the tales you hear now are of saint and goddess. Yeah, you get a twofer with Brigid. Brigid the woman must have been a strong spiritual leader, respected by all. Her abbey in Kildare was a joint abbey with separate facilities for men and women, but she was the head of it. So the male abbot was under her authority. She ran the place. He was her second in command. Over time, she acquired all kinds of stories about her. These stories are myths, which couldn't possibly be factually true, but they have this way of telling a larger truth. Often, Brigid is just representing women in a matter-of-fact way that honors them and their contributions to society and to spirituality and religion. One of the tales says that when the cardinal went to consecrate her as a nun, he got his prayer books mixed up and consecrated her as a bishop. The cardinal said, "Well, she would make a good bishop." In tales and stories, she often is a bridge figure between different states of being. John Philip Newell names 4 thresholds that St. Brigid crosses. She is the doorway between the pre-Christian and the Christian. In her, they come together. She's the portal between the divine and the human. She connects humanity to the earth, and she commands the liminal space between the womb of the universe and what is trying to come into being. That last one is a mouthful, so I'm going to say it again. She commands the liminal space between the womb of the universe and what is trying to come into being. Now, those are the highfalutin ways that she forms bridges where a bridge needs to be. She is also the matron saint. I ran into that term. They called her that instead of the patron saint. She's the matron saint of babies, blacksmiths, brewers, cattle, lambs, children of unmarried parents, midwives, nuns, poets, poultry raisers, printing presses, who knew? Sailors, scholars, and travelers. She is one of Ireland's 3 patron-matron saints, along with St. Patrick and St. Columba. So I don't know much about St. Columba, but we all know about Patrick, right? In Ireland, it is traditional to hang a St. Brigid's cross in a barn in honor of this saint. And if I was more skilled as a computer person, I would have one of her symbols up there so you could see it. At the end of this service, I think there is a St. Brigid's cross that we'll show. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. It's traditional to have the St. Brigid's cross in a barn in honor of this saint, especially over doorways in order to ensure good health and protection from harm. Isn't that beautiful? And it's kind of a cross, but it's kind of a lot of things. In a barn dedicated to milking, the cows were milked by hand. This could be tedious. So the milkers would pray as they milked. They would go, "The teat of Mary, the teat of Brigid, the teat of Michael, the teat of God. The teat of Mary, the teat of Brigid, the teat of Michael, the teat of God." But she wasn't just interested in milk. She is said to have miraculously changed water into beer for a leper colony and provided enough beer for 18 churches from a single barrel. Remember, I told you she is the matron saint of brewers. It's hard not to compare this tale to the story of Jesus turning wine into water. It's like a copy, a lovely copy. One story brought tears to my eyes. St. Brigid, who couldn't possibly have been there, is created with being Mary's midwife when she gave birth to Jesus. Yes, St. Brigid, born in Ireland in the 5th century, was Mary's midwife. It seems that St. Brigid was a red-headed barmaid at the inn in Bethlehem, where Mary, blonde with red rosy lips, and Joseph, her red-headed husband, with a little bit of gray in his hair, called in and asked for shelter. The inn was full, so Brigid had to send them away, but felt sorry enough that she gave them the inn's last bannock loaf with a glass of water. And then she felt sorry for them. She relented even more, and she tells them they can stay in the sheep byre. Later, she goes out to the byre to check on Mary and finds her in labor. She steps in and helps Mary birth her baby, as any good Irish barmaid would. And as St. Brigid would, because she needs to bring that baby Jesus across the threshold of Mary's body, bring Jesus, the divine baby, into life in this earth, and bring Celtic Christianity into existence at the same time. The story unites Christianity and Celt spirituality by having their best St. Brigid at the birth of Jesus. Doesn't matter that it is impossible. And that made me cry. It was as if the whole country of Ireland was dreaming a dream of how two great traditions could be joined. People have these strong drives to pull the broken parts of their lives and their communities together. The Irish were asking themselves, how can we be ourselves, Celts, and yet embrace this new tradition, Christianity? And when I look at our own country now, I hope that we can find some way of bringing our divided selves together. The Irish wanted their Christianity to have a flavor of their own, and having St. Brigid there made that easier. In Brigid's tales, she often shows up in unlikely places when someone needs her. She is disguised, and it is only later that people realize, hey, that woman who saved our lives, hey, that was St. Brigid. The joining of Celtic and Christian traditions resulted in a Christianity that was infused with the nature mysticism of the Druids. Ireland was far from Christian power centers when the two traditions came together, and they both brought gifts. Christianity brought the figure of Jesus to Ireland with all his gentleness and power. However, the Druids brought a fully formed religion that honored nature, especially trees. It honored women and considered that they were equal spiritually to men. Jesus himself was treated less as a holy victim, sent to save us from our sins. He was more an avatar of the sacred, here among us, and a beloved teacher. The Druids brought in respect for the world and its creatures that shines through this early form of Christianity. And that was the way Irish Christianity was for about 500 years. As more traditional Christianity became more powerful, the Celtic strain came under pressure. Nature mysticism, women as spiritual leaders, and emphasizing Jesus' human nature were no longer allowed. They were suppressed. The Celtic elements had to go underground. And one of the ways a minor tradition in a big religion goes underground is through figures like St. Brigid. When they prayed to St. Brigid, were they praying to the saint or were they praying to the goddess? Even the people praying weren't necessarily so sure. They were praying to both. When they told stories of St. Brigid, they were honoring their joint heritage. And really, you will find the bones of indigenous spirituality in all the major big international religions. Sometimes I think of them as the bones Other times I think of them as like ecosystems where suddenly you're in a little swamp and everything is a little bit different. So, and yes, it's often these different, there'll be figures that will, like St. Brigid, that will be representing one thing, but also representing another. Now, in other ways, the Celtics were saving was to bring religion rituals into their homes. So they had private rituals that they didn't take to church. And the Celts had honored fire, and especially the fire of the hearth. Now, the historical Brigid was credited with keeping a sacred flame lit continually in her abbey. It was tended by the Brigidine nuns until the 16th century. When Henry VIII came to power, he didn't just have serial relationships. He shut down all the religious communities in England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. The continuous flame honoring St. Brigid went out. To keep this tradition alive, people in Ireland began to keep a flame alight in the family hearth. In the Hybrids, they called it the mother flame, the mother fire. In 1993, the Brigidine nuns relit the flame at the site of St. Brigid's Abbey. And while it's only been 30 years, the flame has not gone out since. Now, I don't want to mislead you. Many of the Celtic folkways have been lost. People in Ireland, for the most part, do not feed a continuous flame in their fireplaces. They probably have thermostats, like we do. Modern life is hard on nature-based religions. Ask Native Americans how hard it has been to keep and transmit their spiritual traditions down to the next generation. However, St. Brigid is not disappearing. If anything, she is getting more popular. Recently, Irish feminists worked to get February 1 designated as a national Irish holiday, St. Brigid's Day. You know, St. Patrick had his day, she needed her day, and it needed to be a national holiday. February 1 is also Imbolc, a pagan holiday that celebrates the return of the light. It's the day halfway between winter solstice and spring equinox. Celtic pagan feminists and Christian feminists worked together on this. They lobbied the Irish legislature together. Do you see how she acted here as a bridge again? This time between pagans and Christians. So, thank you, St. Brigid. I appreciate you as a strong, sensible female saint. Not a martyr, but a doer. Someone who brings us together and doesn't worry what label we carry. I think as she continues to be revered in the modern era, she should cast her protective mantle over more groups that need her to help them over thresholds that they face. She could become the matron saint of coming out for the LGBTQ community, of young people going through sex transitions, of people who belong to more than one religion, who have more than one race or culture. She could be the matron saint of the first person in a family going to college. She could be the matron of city parks where nature is next to the city, of our, I'm going a little wild here, of our whole push to transition to a clean economy. There are so many thresholds we need help to cross. Help us, St. Brigid. We need your help. So now, let us sing together. For the beauty of the earth. It's number 21 in the gray Hallel, and it will also be here.
Stand as you are able.
Thank you.
of this flame in this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond.
And let me leave you with this benediction. It's a blessing from Brigid, St. Brigid. Brigid of the mantle, encompass us. Lady of the lambs, protect us. Keeper of the hearth, kindle us. Beneath your mantle, gather us, and restore us to memory. Mothers of our mother, foremothers strong, guide our hands in yours. Remind us how to kindle the hearth, to keep it bright, to preserve its flame. Your hand upon ours, our hands within yours, to kindle the light both day and night. The mantle of Brigid about you, the memory of Brigid within us, the protection of Brigid keeping us from harm, from ignorance, from heartlessness. This day and night, from dawn till dark, from dark till dawn. Amen.
We hope you can join us next week. We have a very special service. Instead of a sermon, Reverend Sue Matrenga-Watson will help facilitate small groups here in the chapel to share their thoughts and on these questions. What does Eastrose mean to me? What can I do to be a steward to Eastrose? And how do we build community using our strengths? All responses will go to the board and to our new minister, Reverend Robin Zucker. This will be a fun community building exercise and help brighten our flame as we go forward. Those interested in hiking are welcome to join an upcoming hike on Wednesday in the Tom McCall Preserve area in the gorge near Mosier. We'll be carpooling from Eastrose at 8:30 in the morning. If you're interested, you can Talk to me, Richard, Eric, Larry. We expect to see lots of beautiful wildflowers on Wednesday. And Keen had some announcements he'd like to share.
Small laundry list. First are some things related to some theatrical things going on. We hosted some play rehearsals here in the chapel for the Sandy Actors Theater for a play called The Gin Game. And it is currently running in Sandy. It will be this afternoon and then next weekend for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next week. If you call and say you are from the Eastrose Fellowship and that we've been offered free tickets, they will give you tickets for free. If you wish to pay for them, that's a good thing to support. But so you can just call their website and hopefully the person there will remember that that's going on. Second, we had a theatrical experience here not long ago with the Nuts and Bolts Theater. They did a wonderful job. Kelly and Justin Lacey are friends of ours that have had that theater for 16, 18 years, whatever it is now. And they put on marvelous community theater performances. Their current one is Chitters, and it's a comedy about putting on a play and stage fright and all kinds of things like that. It is not free, but it starts next weekend and we'll run with all the 3 weekends. Again, it's Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon if you're interested in that. And I would recommend them highly. You saw a bit of their work here, and they are very well worth supporting as a community theater. The third thing is put this on your calendars, please. Will Barnack will be here as a special performance 17th, I think it is, yeah, the 17th of June in the evening at 7 o'clock. It's a Saturday night. And his topic is In the Name of the Father, and his honor of Father's Day. So he will be doing stories and poems and readings and theatrical things related to that. We all know, many of us know who Will Barnack is. He does a wonderful voice theater type of presentation that I would highly recommend people be there. It is free, although we will have opportunities for you to donate to one of the charities of our choice. This Friday, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock is Snowcap. We, as a group, get together and we take time to volunteer at Snowcap and fill bags or do whatever else they need for us as a group to do. And there's anywhere from 5 to 10 of us that show up. If we have more, they'll put us in 2 places instead of 1. So 3 to 5 at the Snowcap offices for anybody that wishes to participate. You would be very welcome. I will not be there this weekend, but I'm pretty sure Kim will be there, and she's the one that is really in charge of that. Just a final statement, and that is find a place to join in on the fellowship activities. Whatever you choose to do, however you choose to be involved, we welcome you to be involved and to find a place that fits for you and your interests. We will have a potluck afterwards today, and if you didn't bring food because you didn't know, please come and be our guests. There should be enough. We'll share what we have and we'll eat what we can, and whatever is there is there, and that is good. Everybody is welcome. So please come and join us. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Any other announcements today? Okay, we'll now conclude today's service. And for those of you who are online, you can exit
YouTube and join Zoom Cafe conversations. And for those of you here at Eastrose, stay for coffee and tea time, as well as the potluck following. Thank you, everybody.